Pinching, deadheading, and disbudding are a few terms that novice gardeners might be wondering, what exactly are we doing to our plants? But really, these are practices that you can do to help control the growth of plants. So first of all, we're going to talk about pinching. Pinching is the removal of something that might be a little bit leggy coming out of a plant, and what it is you can either pinch it with your fingers, but it's really a better practice to use small little snips such as this, and to go in there and trim right above the node of the next lower set of leaves, or however far back down you would like to trim it. So this is a way to control the growth habit. You can see here on this other coleus, again, we have a couple of stems that are sticking up a little bit higher. So we'll just come back into this lower set of leaves and trim that out. So pinching is a great way of controlling the height of a plant. And now, why would you want to do this? Perhaps you have a plant that you're growing in a greenhouse and it's just getting a little bit too large. It's not quite time to plant it outside. And so you can go ahead and trim it back by snipping out some of that growth. And you can do this as far back as you want. And this is going to regulate and also create more of a bushy plant for you. So you can see we've trimmed it back by about 1/3. It's still got a nice shape to it. And each time you trim it back, you can see this is where we trimmed it. Now these two stems will continue to grow, and that's why it becomes bushier, because where you had one stem that you trimmed out, now you're going to have 2 stems growing from that point. You might have a house plant that has been inside all winter long and it's been stretching towards the light, towards the window or something, and it's gotten a little leggy that way also. So this would be an ideal application for pinching. So we're just going to go in, and you want to be as close as possible to that node right above that joint where the leaf stem connects to the main stem. You can see above here where it got pinched back, and somebody did not pinch it back far enough. And this is not necessarily a major problem, but can lead to disease because this part of the stem is not going to produce anything for us. And in fact, it's just going to start to kind of die back. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. It also kind of creates a tidier look to the plant. Now, there's another situation where you might use deadheading. This is patchouli. It's an herb. You can see it got pinched back, and we're going to clean it up by pinching back those stems just a little bit more. But herbs, a lot of times we don't want them to flower because we're after the foliage. That's where the fragrance is in many herbs. And some herbs, once they start to bloom, then they'll die. So you might want to deadhead some of your herbs to prevent them from flowering. Here we have a geranium. Again, we're in the greenhouse. We're not ready to take these outside yet. So we're going to go ahead and trim back our flowers. This is called deadheading. So obviously we want to remove the flowers here because this will promote more growth, both of the vegetation and also the roots, before we get it out in the garden. But why would you want to deadhead plants that are already out in the garden? Again, there might be a couple of reasons. One, you have herbs and you're not ready for that plant to die, or you're after the vegetation more. But there also are aggressive seeds that you might want to prevent from spreading in your garden. So that would be another case in which you deadhead your plants. Now, similar to deadheading, there is also disbudding. So here we have a geranium that we're going to go ahead and remove these flowers because a plant only has so much carbohydrates and sugars, and right now it's sending energy into making these flowers, and we're not ready for it to flower just yet because nobody can really enjoy these flowers before they go out in the garden. So we're going to focus that energy back into this plant by removing those flower buds. When we know we're going to be putting them out in the garden, we'll go ahead and continue to let them flower at that point. Now, finally, there's a couple of instances when you might do a combination. So this is a penta, and they're quite prolific bloomers, but sometimes you want to go ahead and remove those spent flowers. These aren't quite blooming just yet, but you can see it's getting a little bit leggy. So we're going to go ahead and pinch it back, but at the same time, we're disbudding it as well. So now we have a plant that's a little bit shorter. It will again flush back out and be ready to go in the garden pretty soon. Deadheading, disbudding, and pinching don't have to be painful chores, but in fact are great ways to control the growth of your plants in the garden.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.